everyone, welcome to our YouTube channel. I'm Dr. Ashwati. Students, in this lecture, I'm going to discuss about a political tradition which I have chosen from your unit number 1, political theory. Now, you must be thinking that what is the relevance of political tradition? As you know that when I will be naming them each, liberalism, Marxism, socialism, conservatism, postmodernism, feminism, ecologism, multiculturalism, all these traditions are going to be repeated in each and every unit of your syllabus. Now, let's say that in your unit number 8, which is with reference to India, theories of Indian state, the liberal view, the Marxist view, post-colonial view. So you should know that what are the political traditions. Similarly, in your comparative political analysis, again, you will be studying about various approaches. And it is very essential that you should know that what you mean by liberalism, what are its basic tenets, and for each tradition, there are different phases. Like, let's take an example like liberalism. It started with that of the classical liberalism, then it matured to that of, or it made a transition to that of modern liberalism. Then the shift happened to that of neoliberalism, neoclassical liberalism. So you can see here that there are various phases. Similar to that of Marxism, Marxism also had different phases. Early Marxism, then after Orthodox Marxism, the Orthodoxy Marxism, then after we have Neo-Marxism. Within Neo-Marxism also you will find that structural Marxism, instrumentalist theories, so many things are there. In postmodernism also, critical theory, all these things are having phases. Feminism, it emerged, right? The waves of feminism that we talk about. Now, when we will be applying these political traditions to that of the concepts, then it becomes more easier to understand. Now, as you know that there are various concepts: liberty, equality, justice, rights, citizenship. So many theories are there. Now, in citizenship, we often read about T.H. Marshall, Anthony Giddens. Both belong to different, we can say different schools of thought, or we can say both belong to different tradition. So you need to identify by reading, okay, they said this, that. Now, how you're going to memorize things? You should know that, okay, this person belongs to this particular tradition. That's why this person's views are similar to that of other writers. So you can, you have to understand it in a very complementary manner as well as in contradicting manner. This person criticized this person, this work was in reaction to this work, or this work was published as a reaction to certain political events. If your basics are clear like this, then cracking UGC NET examination is not a big deal. So in this lecture, I'm going to teach you people about classical liberalism. Classical liberalism is the earliest form of liberalism. This is a product of Renaissance, Enlightenment. All these ideas were emerging, and then after it had influences from the social contract tradition as well, and which was actually idea mooted by, or we can say that which the idea which we can actually find in the works of Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and many others. So you can see that this was also the period when the modern state system was established, and there was a kind of understanding among the scholars that, okay, we have to create a good life. How can you attain the good life? What is good for the individuals? What is the best life you can have? What is the best economic policy? Which type of government is better for the people, for expansion of trade, economics, and all these things we will be covering here. So let's check out the very basic points about classical liberalism. This emerged as an, we can say that it is a product of the 19th century, and it emerged as a political doctrine. And the second point is very important one, that it is a resultant of the breakdown of feudalism in Europe. Now, feudalism, that was a kind of a very exploitative socio-economic structure and a political structure as well. And Europe already had absolute monarchies, the problem between the religious institutions and that of the monarchy and with that of the parliamentarians. All these issues were there. If you go through the English Civil War and all these things, you will get to know about the enclosure movement. So many informations are there. At one side you have the religion, at the another side you have the monarchy, then you have the parliamentarians, they are fighting with each other. So already political chaos, political disorders, all these things were rampant in those years, or we can say that in those centuries basically. Now, breakdown of feudalism, there was a transition happening where a large number of people were migrating from the rural centers to that of the urban centers. This was also the period when the trades were actually expanding and factories were being launched. When people started working in the factories, they left their villages and now they were working in the urban centers, or we can say that the towns. Growth of a market capitalist society where the people are having full freedom in pursuing their economic life, whatever they want. Like there will be no state intervention, that people are free to do whatever they want, whatever industry they want to put up. If you have the capital, then you are free to do so. And the state was considered to be a kind of an intervention. The state was asked not to intervene in the economic affairs of the individuals. It criticized the absolutism and feudal dominated politics as well, because in those days divine right theory was there. Like it questioned the divine right theory, even the social contract tradition time when Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, all these thinkers questioned the absolute monarchies. They wanted to bring a kind of a new system where the people actually come together and they form the government. They advocated representative government. I'm not saying that Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, they all had a similar view, but somewhere it was quite reflective that they wanted to create a representative government. In Hobbesian understanding also, where he says that the creation of the commonwealth, where the people submit their powers either to one person or to an assembly of persons. Similarly, John Locke, he actually created a trust. And then Jean-Jacques Rousseau, for him, it was about the popular democracy, or he actually opined for a direct democracy, the general will theory. Now here, criticism of mercantilism or state intervention in economy. Mercantilism, which is actually a nationalistic perspective of economy, which actually put what we call it as it was a kind of an economic policy which promoted export, but it had limitations on the import. So under, or we can say that with the growth of the classical liberalism, this was attacked and laissez-faire capitalism was promoted. Laissez-faire capitalism means that absence of hurdles in your economic life. It means that no one will be interfering in your economic life. If you want to start a business, no one is going to question you. Non-intervention of state in the economic affairs of individuals. Self-regulating market. It also spoke about an invisible hand, which is actually a regulating force in the market. And this is also the period when social Darwinism was also promoted. Like Herbert Spencer is that theorist who actually was a sociologist who brought the idea of Charles Darwin's idea of survival of the fittest in sociology. He justified inequalities in terms of wealth, property, position, social status, political status, etc. But here the idea was that if you are a meritorious person, then you will be achieving your heights, and it was on your own. This was also the period where it was said that no one should be it was also a period of what we call it as absence of constraints theory. It means that if a person is interested to pursue something, that person should not be prohibited from doing so, because it will be a kind of a curtailment of his liberties. Now let's say that commitment to individualism, or we can call it as like atomistic view, that human beings are rational creatures. They know what is good for them, what is wrong for them. So whatever actions they will be taking, it will be for their own benefit itself. Minimal state or night watchman state, it means that the state should actually be only act as a what we call it as a kind of a night watchman state. That means the state is allowed only to do, like, let's say that the bringing the law and order situation, you have to keep an eye on the contracts. If the parties whosoever, like, people are respecting the contracts, let's say that it was to be like a kind of a security provider. And let's take an example of Thomas Paine's idea that state as a necessary evil, because you cannot say that state is not necessary, but state's role should be minimized only to the realm of security, protection, or preservation of people's property, liberty, life. And this was also the period when natural rights theories were also promoted. Natural rights theories like, when you are born, you have inalienable rights and it cannot be taken away by the state itself. So this is negative, or we can call it as like negative rights, that no one has the capacity to contain your actions. You are free to do whatever you want. And this is also the period of promotion of negative liberty. Promotion of negative liberty means absence of constraints, that no one can contain you, or no one can actually prohibit your actions. You are free to do whatever you want. Now, there are so many thinkers also. With reference to UGC NET examination, you should know about the major thinkers associated with this period as well as the important books. So let's start with John Locke. John Locke has published this work called Two Treatises of Government, published in 1690. Then we have Adam Smith, The Wealth of Nations, 1776. He is the person associated with the idea of laissez-faire individualism. Then we have Jeremy Bentham, who is an utilitarian. He has written this work called A Fragment on Government, 1776, An Introduction to the Principles of Morals and Legislation, published in 1789. He is the person who gave the idea that greatest happiness of the greatest number. Then we have Thomas Robert Malthus, and he has written an essay on the principle of population, 1798. Then we have another economist here, David Ricardo. He has published this work called On the Principles of Political Economy and Taxation, published in 1817. Then we have the social Darwinism's main theorist, or we can say that main sociologist, Herbert Spencer. He has written one of his major work I have like cited here, The Man versus the State, published in 1884. So students, in this lecture, I have tried to bring various, or we can say that the basic tenets of classical liberalism. But yes, with the development of industrialization, or we can say that by the maturing of the industrialization, what happened was, there was a creation of two classes, two types of people. One who owned the capital, and the second, laborers. And there was a very, what we call it as the gruesome exploitation of the masses, especially the labor class, the working class population. And the classical liberalism was criticized by the modern liberals. So if classical liberalism belongs to the period of the 19th century, it was in the 20th century, modern liberalism emerged. And I'll be explaining modern liberalism in my next lecture. So stay tuned, students. Thank you for watching this lecture. See you in another lecture. Bye.